Welcome back to The Whole Home. I am Kezia, and this is the space where we try and make sustainable living feel a bit less complicated and a bit more budget friendly, all in the context of real family life. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, which might not be your favorite thing, but that's okay because we're going to do it together. And that is meal planning and budgeting well with food money, and specifically how we can put together a meal plan that is going to get us through to the end of the month. I'm actually going to build with you our meal plan for the final week of this month. We had a spendy beginning of the month for a few different reasons. And so we have landed with less money than I would normally have for the end of the month. So I'm going to tell you the things that are really on my mind as we look at the end of the month and try and make it through on our lower than average food budget. And then you can hopefully take those away and use them in your life to stick to whatever your budget is, feeling powerful to do that. Since we started food budgeting, we have actually had a below average food budget for our family size and where we lived. So that was in California and then here in the south of England. Our food budget has, for the last decade, been below the national average by USDA figures and then by UK figures, which always surprises me because I feel like we're able to, while budgeting very strictly and employing a lot of tactics, also, I feel like we're able to eat really well and still do things like a sustainable veg box and fair trade chocolate and things like that. But it does mean that we're always semi-thinking about staying on budget, not in a worried way, but in a just, we have to work to make that happen. And then at the end of the month, when we're trying to reconcile that month, really pulling on all the tactics we know to stay on budget. So here are some tips from what we do. If you are building a meal plan right now, grab a pen and paper, and then you can write down anything that comes into your head, whether it's a meal or an idea or something to shop for as I talk. The first key is going to be one that you're not going to want to implement right away, but that is, don't laugh, actually having a budget. And I can tell you from personal experience that we tried to stick to a budget without actually having one. And it's surprising how many people do this. They have an arbitrary budget and then they just always feel like they're spending too much, but they're not actually sure what they're trying to stick to. And then the motivation to stick to it is so small and the guilt and shame is high. So get through this week that you're planning for, but then I have another video, how much should we be spending on food? And I highly recommend watching that and just getting some idea of actually not having an arbitrary number, but having one that you believe in, because it's so much easier to sacrifice at the end of the month to stick to your budget if you believe in the number that you have. But in terms of practically right in the moment, getting to the end of the month or bringing down our food spending as we plan, before doing any planning or spending, dig into your cupboards and make it a challenge with the people that you cook for. I think so often one person is left managing the food spending. Everyone else's expectations are in a different place, and it can be really, really hard to make it happen when everyone is not on board. So get together with a partner, a spouse, kids, whoever you shop with, and say, we're going to do a challenge. We're going to see how many meals we can make from the cupboards. We're going to dig in, see what's in there, and we're going to do this together. Getting everyone on board is a huge thing. This month, I took my kids to the shops. We made it a maths challenge. They knew how much we had left to spend in the month, what we had to get, and they added everything up on paper as we went, and they were so bought into what we could and couldn't have that it was actually fun for them to limit our spending and stay on budget. Dig into the cupboards together, look at what you have and make it a challenge to see how far you can get on what you have. Then next up is going to be make a plan, and we'll meal plan after we run through these tips that I really pull on. But making a plan really does save money because it lets us Tetris ingredients together. And I always will play around with my plan and go, okay, what if I put this here? Oh, then I'll need to buy this. Oh, but if I put those two together, then that's another meal that we can do here. And you kind of get better and better at it and build that skill. But it means that instead of just eating meal by meal and then getting to the end and going, oh, I've got peanut butter and frozen peas, we can plan the food out to make sure that we actually have meals, because you can eat peanut butter and frozen peas, but it's much more fun to make a peanut butter stir-fry sauce with rice and frozen peas. And if we can distribute foods through the amount of time we're planning for, it's so much better and stops us either needing to grab something else at the end or buy random ingredients as we go through. So making a plan with what you have and then for what you need to buy really, really makes such a difference. Then eat at home. Food at home is pretty much always going to be cheaper than food out. Now, it depends what you're buying out and what you're buying at home, but if we're also going to really rein in what we eat at home, it's going to save so much money. And this doesn't have to be always. At the beginning of the month, we did some eating out. And that's one of the reasons we have less at the end of the month. And I knew it was going to happen and I'm fine with it. There's no guilt, no shame, no regret. Now we get to rein that in. So that's going to look like if we're traveling or taking a trip or we have a football game out or anything like that, that I've really looked through the week and made sure that we're taking snacks or meals with us so we don't get caught out. So before I make the meal plan and shop, I'm looking at what do I need to plan for? Because I don't want to have a meal that takes an hour to cook at home when we're back from a dance practice really late, because that's when we get into, oh, we'll just grab something else or we'll use something that's not in this place on the meal plan and everything gets thrown off. So I'm really looking at how can I ensure that we eat at home? How can I make sure that we have food with us when we're going to get hungry out and it's a meal time or we're going to be tempted to buy food out? And then adjusting the meals that we're planning for the kind of week it is. If we plan to make elaborate meals or things that will take an hour to cook and it's a really busy week and we're overwhelmed, we're going to be tempted to grab food out, grab something to go, grab something quick. So adapting the meals we're putting in the meal plan as much as we can to the energy that we think we are going to have that week. So it's practical to actually not eat out. It's also going to look like making sure we take our coffee to go. Dig out that coffee cup that's a to-go cup when you know you'll be tempted to eat out. Take it with you. And in this, letting people know unashamedly what you're doing and that you're sticking to your budget. And if someone says, let's grab coffee, you can say, we're really making it to the end of the month on our budget. We're doing a no spend week. So I'm going to bring my coffee at home, but I would love to meet you in a park for a walk, or I would love to whatever works. Or do you want to come to my house? I'll make us coffee. We can enjoy it here. We're doing a no spend week, but there is no shame in sticking to your budget. And so just being honest with people. So don't be ashamed to tell people that you are sticking to your budget. That is a really amazing thing to do. You get to do it. Then as we actually build our meal plan, we're going to look at the foods that we have to work with, every bit of what's left, the bits that are at the bottom of your fridge, the bits that are in the pantry. Look at what we have and see how many meals we can build. And then beyond that, when we're looking at what we need to buy, I really lean on pulses and beans. In most places in the world, a more frugal source of protein and fiber, which is really great on a budget. You can soak them from dry, which is going to typically make them even cheaper, and even sprout them to make them maybe more easily digestible. We will do bean and rice bowls, just simple bean and rice bowls, maybe with some roasted veg or a sauce or pesto. Or if there's meat, some meat or some greens or something like that. But bean and rice bowls will always be on our menu pretty much every week, but especially if we're making it through to the end of the month, bean and rice bowls, and they can be so fun and flavorful with really frugal ingredients. So we do beans like that. Then lentils are a great addition. You can make a soup just from lentils, a really nutritious soup, or throw some veggies in there, or put some greens on the side, or put some meat on the top. But red lentils make a great soup. Then you've got things like chickpeas. Chickpeas can do so many things. They can make a salad. They can really make a curry that's full of protein with a simple curry sauce, and some chickpeas will make a great, delicious and nutritious curry, which you can then have with rice and do a really great hearty meal. We'll also use beans and do tortillas with beans and maybe a cabbage slaw and do some kind of taco wrap. Really simple, frugal ingredients with the protein. Lentils are one of my favorites because they are so high in protein, packing I think about 18 grams of protein in a cup of lentils. So in the summer, you can do lentil salads with maybe whatever fresh veg you have left, or some roasted veg and lentils, and then just olive oil and vinegar and salt or some garlic. There are so many ways that we can use cheap and frugal, but really nutritious beans, lentils, pulses, chickpeas, and things like that to bulk out meals. So that is a huge one for me. We also use chickpea flour a lot, which can be great for things like a pizza crust or to make wraps that are really high in protein. And so then you can just put in some veg or whatever you have, or make really simple things, but you've upped the protein and kept it really nice and frugal and also gluten-free using a chickpea or gram flour. This one is never popular, but skipping the snacks. When I am building meal plans, we actually don't really ever build in snacks, but there's two main reasons for this. Firstly, snack foods are typically much more expensive and not nutrient dense. Typically, obviously they can be different, but typically they're more expensive and less nutritionally dense, which means you're spending more money for less nutrition. And when we're trying to bulk out a meal plan and get to the end of the month, we want the opposite. We want the most nutrition for the least money, which is why I lean in on things like pulses and beans. But snack foods can often do the opposite. And so we really cut those the whole time, but especially if we've got a tighter week, cutting out snacks, because the other thing that happens is when we snack, we are not coming to meals hungry. And when we don't come to meals hungry, we're less likely to eat maybe the simpler meals or the less exciting meals or the tacos without salsa and avocado and meat. Those cheaper, more frugal, nutrient-dense foods can seem less appealing and exciting, but if we're not snacking, maybe we're eating more meals a day. Maybe we do 4 meals a day. We will often do that, do 4 meals a day, but they're well-balanced, frugal food meals, and then we're not snacking in between, so everyone comes ready to eat and ready to eat those slightly weird leftovers dishes, which is crucial if we're going to really maximize our budget. And that would be my next point, is to repurpose everything with maybe slightly random meals. And we can often get into this mentality of, well, what are we having? What meal is it? Instead of going, what do we have? How can we make it edible? And that can be a real process for some people to go, it doesn't have to have a name. Everyone at the table doesn't have to eat the same food. We really can use up leftovers. And so we will often just pull things out and go, okay, one person is having this, one person is having this, one person is having this, and we're using up really random things. Also, I keep a list in my head of great meals for using up the random bits while pulling it together to feel like a more normal meal. Soups are great for that. Blended soups are great for that when there's bits of veggies and things like that, just blending it all together. We like tacos, just putting things in tacos, a stir fry, a curry. You can hide so many things and bits of leftovers from other meals in one of those dishes and make it feel like a fresh new meal. But don't be afraid to repurpose every little bit with slightly random meals. And not snacking will make those more appealing to everybody. This next one is a definite balance with the idea that planning is really important, but looking for yellow stickers, and different food shops do this different ways. But so many places now have yellow stickers or some kind of clearance section, or places where food that is about to go out of date, or sometimes not even about to go out of date, is heavily discounted. Now, you have to be able to make a quick assessment in the moment. In that, if it's something you already needed and it's discounted, that's easy. If it's not something you already needed, you have to be able to assess really quickly whether it's actually going to save you money. And just because it has a yellow sticker on it, it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to save you money. My quick cheat sheet for this is to take our weekly or monthly spending and divide it by the number of meals it needs to cover. And that brings me to between £6 and £7 per meal to feed our family of 5. So now when I go into the shop and something is discounted, I can quickly make the assessment. How much of a meal is that item going to cover? Pizzas are a great example of this one. We often have discounted pizzas in our local supermarket, and they're discounted from £6, £7, £8 down to maybe £3 or £4. However, I know that it takes 6, 7 typical size pizzas to feed our family. So if they're discounted to £4, it looks like a great saving, but actually £4 times the 7 pizzas it takes to feed our family is £28. And that is nowhere close to my £6 a meal amount. So I can make them at home for a fraction of that cost. That's actually not a saving. So yellow stickers, find the clearance items, but then be able to look at the price of those in comparison with the per meal amount that you have to spend. And then what I do with that too is I will take my meal plan to the shop. I will take my meal plan, not just my shopping list, to the shop, so that when I see an item like that, I can go, where could I integrate this into the meal plan? Does it make sense? Is it actually going to save me this week? And I can make an educated, powerful decision and not just go, it's on clearance, let's buy it. Because trust me, that is not how we save money and make it to the end of the month. Something else that I really love to do is to make our most basic food items as nutritionally dense as we possibly can. So we make a whole wheat, organic, stone ground flour, all the things, sourdough. And this way I know the cheap basics of our food are as nutrition packed as possible. So our tortillas, our waffles, our pizzas, our bread, the kind of that base point of our diet is still cheap. My loaves cost me about 80p per loaf, or like 20p per pizza base for an organic sourdough pizza base. But I know that as we stay on budget and rely more heavily on those cheap items, we're also getting the most nutritional bang for our buck possible. And then if maybe we have more meals that are kind of bread heavy, I know that we're doing it in the most nutritionally dense way that we can without spending more money. And that would lead me to another one, which is bake your own bread. Baking bread is my top from scratch thing in the kitchen. It saves so much through the week to make our own bread. So, top tip. Okay. And then in looking at where you're shopping, look for waste food apps. So apps like Olio and Too Good To Go can be really great ways to find cheaper food or to bring some of the joy of eating out into a more frugal week at a really good price. Too Good To Go operates in loads of different places in the world. I think Olio does too. And then there are other services in different places where you can pick up waste food. But it's a kind of via app dumpster diving before it gets into the dumpster. And it's both a really environmentally conscious way to use that food that would be wasted while saving a lot of money. So download those two apps and have a look at what is available in your area. We love it and save a lot of money through doing it. And lastly, before we dive into the meal plan, foraging. And foraging can seem like such an earthy word, but sometimes it can be a really good way to get nutrition into your diet for no cost. Depending on where you are, it's going to look like different things, but we forage a lot of blackberries. When blackberries are around through the summer, nettles are around a lot of the year, and they are such a good source of nutrition, iron, vitamin C, lots of different things, and we can put them in soups and pastas and so many different things. Nettles, even if maybe you just have a garden and you haven't done your gardening and now you have an abundance of nettles, they are a great cheap source of greens. And depending on where you are, there are other wild things too, like prickly pears and hazelnuts and chestnuts and so many different things that you can look at what you can forage in your area and really make the most of it for some extra nutrition. And then taking all of those things, it really is about getting familiar with the meals that are frugal to you, where you live, and that work for your family. And that is where I then start to build my meal plan. So I grab a simple sheet of paper, it's not a fancy planner, and I'm just going to jot down the days that I have to get through before my next budget kicks in. We use the Monzo app to actually practically manage our budget. I'll put a video below. It's so helpful. So we are going to start from Thursday and go Friday, and we're just going to write the days of the week. And then you're going to want to adjust it for whatever you need. You might not need to put in breakfast. Everybody might have school lunches and be out for school lunches, or you might want to do 4 meals a day, but make a grid that works for you. I like to do all the meals just because it actually helps my sanity as well as my budgeting. And we always do pizza on a Saturday. We do homemade pizza. It's very, very frugal, and that is always going to be on a Saturday. So I'm going to fill that in first. Saturday morning, we always will do waffles. They're sourdough, overnight fermented waffle batter. We can just put what we have on top. Those are always in there. Then I'm going to look and make sure I'm only doing the meals that I need to do. So we'll cross out any meals I know we're actually out on Sunday, lunch, and then I'm going to go through and say, who am I cooking for different meals? So I'm not making more food or too little food for whoever's there for each meal. But I think for all of these, we're all here, full house. Then I'm going to start with what I pulled out from the pantry. What do I already have in the house? What am I trying to use up? I know I've got some potatoes that are pre-cooked and some chickpeas that I found in the back of the cupboard that I soaked and cooked. So we're going to start with a frittata. I'm going to put those in a pan, heat them up, add some eggs, throw it in the oven, and make a great frittata. That is a really nice budget-friendly dish. So that is one meal that we're going to pop in there. Then my son has been asking for curry, and so I bought a whole chicken, which felt like a bit of a splurge, but I'm going to try and get 3 meals out of this 18-pound organic chicken. So the first meal I'm going to get out of it is a chicken soup. I will roast it and take off the bulk of the meat. then slow cook it to get the broth. And we will make a chicken soup with the tiny little remainders of everything from the carcass. I'll link that recipe below. And then have it with some simple bread. So we're gonna do chicken soup, and that is gonna make 2 meals. So we've got 2 chicken soups in there. Then the other meal that my son requested was chicken curry. So I'm gonna buy a really simple curry sauce, add in the rest of the chickpeas, the potatoes. We'll do it with some rice. So we're gonna do a chicken curry on Friday night with chickpeas and potatoes. You can also do a homemade flatbread. Love those, really cost effective. Throw in any leftover veggies or anything like that. Then I'm gonna put in my meals that I know are so frugal. We're gonna do our bean and rice bowls. So I'm gonna look at where am I gonna put in bean and rice bowls. I'm gonna just go to the first lunch we have open and do beans or lentils and rice, because we're gonna put chickpeas in the curry, beans in the soup, so lentils and rice bowls. There we go. Then wraps with beans is another frugal favorite. So I'm gonna do 2 meals. Again, we're gonna do tacos for a lunch and then tacos for a dinner. So that'll just be simple wraps and beans, maybe with a cabbage. Slaw will pop in there as well, a nice frugal vegetable. And then I'm gonna do a simple pasta meal. We're gonna double up the red sauce from the pizza, and I'm gonna do a red pasta. We might do a little lentil salad beside it to up the protein, or get a lentil pasta. We'll see, but we'll do red pasta again there. And then I make sure to, okay, I've got 2 meals left. On Saturday, I did get some bacon that I found on special. So we're gonna do bacon and egg bagels as a fun Saturday one. Again, the bagels will be homemade. So we'll do bacon and egg bagels there. And then I'm gonna make sure I'm putting in a leftovers meal so that everything, even though we're eating leftovers, we're gonna do a leftovers meal there, or eggs if we get in trouble. And then my breakfast, did we just rotate really between toast, pancakes, and waffles? There we go. And we have a meal plan. Now I know that these meals, because I've been doing this for so long, I know that these meals come from cheaper ingredients that I can get on our budget. I have about £100 left to spend. I know I can do this on the budget, but I also know where I can adjust things. I can drop down from having something be organic and save money. I can take out a meat meal and just put in another beans and rice meal if I'm not quite being able to adjust the budget. There are some different things that I can do. And then I'm gonna take this to the shop and look for yellow stickers. See if I can adjust something to save even more money when I'm shopping. If I see something, sausages are on sale. I might take out a meal and go, okay, that actually makes more sense. We'll put that in instead. And then we're gonna stick to it. We're gonna stick to this. I am gonna put it where everyone can see it in the kitchen so that everyone buys in. I'm gonna tell everyone we're making it through to the end of the month without spending any more once I've shopped for this. So let's stick to the meal plan. Make sure you look before you eat. Wait for the meals. We're doing this together, and we make it fun and exciting and a challenge. My kids even know this. They'll ask, wait, when are you shopping? When does the next budget kick in? And it doesn't feel like restriction to them. It feels like a routine of ebb and flow that actually is just helpful for guiding life. So that is how we do it. I hope those tips are helpful. I will put more information below that you can pull from if you are trying to make a budget-friendly meal plan. I will link some other resources. And if you want to see what a full month of eating looks like in our house, along with what the end of the month looked like for us last month, I will link that video here. You can watch the whole thing with how we budget and how we practically do it through the month in video form. And then here's that video about how much your grocery budget should be, not pulling from anyone else or what is recommended, but really figuring it out for yourself so that you have a number that you believe in. Okay, I'm going to take this, put it in the kitchen, shop for it, and stick to it. Good luck.